Success doesn't come to people who want it. It comes to people who refuse to live without it. That's the truth. If you're not obsessed with success, you'll always find reasons to stop. You'll take breaks when things get hard. You'll quit when no one claps. You'll slow down when no one's watching. But the people who actually build a new life, they don't wait. They don't look for comfort. They don't need reminders. They're obsessed. That means they think about their goals every day. They act with purpose. They don't skip. They don't settle. They live differently. This audiobook will show you exactly how to develop that mindset, not just to push harder, but to think clearer, act faster, and grow stronger. This isn't theory. This is practical, personal, and powerful. If you've ever wondered how to be obsessed with success, this is where it begins. Get serious, get focused, get locked in. Let's start. Chapter 1. Choose success even when comfort feels easier today. You wake up in the morning and you've got two choices. 1. You go back to what's easy, stay in bed a little longer, scroll through your phone, delay the hard things for later. Or 2. You get up and decide that today you will choose growth. That's the split right there. That's where most people lose. Success doesn't slip away from you in some dramatic moment. It walks away quietly every time you choose what's comfortable instead of what's necessary. You see, comfort feels good now, but it costs you later. Every day you choose comfort, you're trading your future for a feeling. And I'm telling you, the people who win, the people who build something meaningful with their lives, they understand this. They choose success, even when it hurts, even when it's boring, even when no one is watching, and especially when it's easier to do nothing. Comfort is a trap. It doesn't look like one. It looks like resting. It feels like peace. But what it really does is steal your drive. It convinces you that you can delay discipline. It whispers that you deserve a break before you've earned one. And once you believe that, you stop showing up. You stop pushing. You start settling. Now, choosing success doesn't mean you never rest. It means your rest is earned. It means you rest after progress, not before. Most people have it backwards. They rest all the time and wonder why they never feel fulfilled. That's because fulfillment doesn't come from relaxing. It comes from effort. It comes from doing what you said you'd do, even when you didn't feel like it. You can't build a strong life on weak decisions. You can't change your world by doing what's easy. Every time you hit snooze on your goals, you teach yourself that success isn't urgent, but it is. Because time doesn't wait for anyone. Life doesn't pause while you sit and think about it. The clock keeps ticking, and you either use your time or you lose it. Now here's the truth. Choosing success means doing things most people won't do. Waking up early, staying late, practicing longer, saying no to things that waste your time. You'll feel uncomfortable. You'll feel pressure. You might feel alone sometimes. That's okay. That's part of it. Because success is supposed to challenge you. It's supposed to test how serious you are. And if you're not willing to go through that, then you don't want success. You just want the idea of it. Real obsession with success means you stop waiting to feel ready. You stop looking for motivation and start building discipline. Discipline is what gets you moving when everything inside of you wants to take it easy. Discipline is when your actions match your goals, not your mood. That's the difference between the ones who dream and the ones who do. People will tell you to slow down. They'll say you're doing too much. They won't understand your focus. That's fine. You don't need their permission. You don't need their applause. You need to stay locked in on the life you want, because if you listen to people who are okay with average, you'll stay average. If you take advice from people who gave up, you'll talk yourself out of everything that matters. When you choose success, you don't always get instant results. Sometimes you work for weeks, months, even years without recognition. That's where most people quit. They think success should be fast and fun, but the real rewards go to the ones who stay in the game long after it stopped being exciting. The ones who show up every day, no matter what the weather is like outside or what their emotions are like inside. If you're serious about changing your life, you've got to get used to being uncomfortable. Growth doesn't happen when everything is easy. Growth happens when you're tired, but you show up anyway. When you don't feel confident, but you still take the step. When no one's clapping for you, but you keep moving forward. You're going to have days where quitting feels like the best option. Days when you'll question if it's even worth it. That's the moment where obsession with success has to kick in. That's when you remember why you started. That's when you stop thinking and start doing. You have to train your mind to choose the harder path. Not because you enjoy pain, but because you know where it leads. You need to be honest with yourself. Look at your habits. Are they building your future or wasting your time? Are your days filled with intention or distraction? Are you moving closer to your goals or just staying busy? These are hard questions, but if you want a strong life, you have to ask them, and you have to answer them truthfully. The people who make it aren't special. They're not born different. They just make decisions most won't. They show up when others cancel. They focus when others drift. They work when others rest. That's what obsession looks like. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's quiet, focused, and relentless. And here's something important. You don't need motivation every day. You just need to decide. Decide that you're going to choose success, even when it's cold outside. Even when you're tired, even when it would be easier to take the day off. That decision made again and again is what changes everything. You have a limited number of days. You don't get to replay this life. So don't waste another one doing what's easy. Don't settle for a life that feels safe but empty. Decide today that you're going to give your best, that you're going to do the work even when no one sees it. That you're going to chase the version of you that you know is possible. And remember this, every time you choose growth over comfort, you win. Every time you choose the hard thing instead of the easy way out, you grow. Every time you show up when you didn't feel like it, you separate yourself from the crowd. That's how success is built. Not in one big moment, but in thousands of small ones where you made the right choice. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have all the answers. But you do need to be consistent. You do need to be serious. And you do need to decide every single day that your life is worth the effort. So, choose success. Even when comfort feels easier. Even when your mind wants to rest. Even when nobody's watching. Choose success because you're done playing small. Choose success because your future depends on it. Choose success because the best version of you is waiting, and it's only going to show up if you do. Chapter 2. Train your mind to love hard, consistent effort. Most people want results. They want change. They want to be successful. But the moment hard work shows up, they back down. Not because they're weak, but because they never trained their mind to respect effort. They see effort as a burden instead of a requirement. That's where it all begins. You either train your mind to avoid hard things, or you train it to lean into them. If you want to be obsessed with success, you don't just need to work hard, you need to learn how to love it. You see, the people who win aren't just doing what's difficult. They've built a relationship with it. They've accepted that consistent effort is part of the deal. They've stopped looking for easy and started looking for progress. Their mindset doesn't wait for motivation. It runs on direction. They know where they're going, and they've decided nothing will stop them. Not tiredness, not boredom, not even failure. The reason most people don't stick with their goals is because they're addicted to comfort. Their mind rejects anything that feels difficult. They've trained themselves to give up the second something feels like a grind. and it's not their fault, they were never taught any different. But that doesn't mean they can't change. You can rewire that thinking. You can build a new standard. You can train your mind to love the process, not just the prize. Real growth happens when your brain stops fighting the work, when you stop complaining in your head every time something takes time, when you stop dreading what needs to be done and just do it. The longer you delay the effort, the more exhausted you feel, not from the work itself, but from the mental resistance. That resistance is the real enemy. It steals your energy before you even begin, and the only way to kill it is with action. Every time you show up without excuses, your brain notices. Every time you keep going when it gets boring or slow, your discipline gets stronger, and eventually your mind begins to shift. You don't dread hard work, you expect it. You don't need things to be easy, you just need them to matter. That's when you stop looking for shortcuts. That's when you stop chasing tricks. That's when you finally understand that consistent effort is not punishment, it's power. But here's something most people don't talk about. Effort gets lonely. When you're truly committed to something, you'll often find yourself working in silence. No applause, no one checking in, no validation, just you and the work. That's when most people give up, not because they can't do it, but because they expected someone to cheer them on. But if you train your mind right, you won't need cheers. You won't need attention. You'll have a reason that's stronger than your feelings. People wait for motivation, but motivation is temporary. What matters is routine, effort built into your day whether you feel like it or not. You get up and do it because it needs to be done. That's how strong people are built. They keep showing up long after the mood is gone. They keep doing the reps even when the results are invisible. They've trained their mind to understand that success doesn't show up quickly, but it does show up to those who refuse to quit. Your mind doesn't need to feel excited. It needs to feel responsible. That means you do the work because it's your job. Not your job for money, but your job for growth. The job of building your future. The job of becoming who you said you wanted to be. That's what effort really is. It's a daily decision to keep moving forward, no matter how slow, no matter how hard. If you want to be obsessed with success, you need to stop reacting and start creating. Stop asking if it's worth it and start proving that it is. Stop waiting for the perfect moment and start turning today into momentum. There's no perfect time, there's just now. And what you do with it decides where you'll be in a year. One of the most powerful things you can do is make hard work normal. Take the emotion out of it. Take the drama out of it. Stop making it optional. Make it automatic. If it's workout time, you train. If it's reading time, you read. If it's business time, you build. You don't think about it, you just do it. And that builds a habit so strong, your mind stops resisting. It becomes who you are. You've got to understand something. Obsession isn't about overworking. It's about refusing to settle. It's about waking up with intention. It's about building a pattern where effort becomes part of your identity. You don't complain about it. You don't fear it. You embrace it. You seek it. You respect it. Because deep down, you know that effort is what separates the average from the elite. Most people think the hard part is physical, but it's mental. The hardest part is convincing yourself to start when nothing feels right. The hardest part is staying consistent when results are delayed. The hardest part is facing yourself when you know you didn't give your best. That's the real battle, and if you win it in your mind, you'll win it everywhere else. When you build this mindset, you won't need to force yourself to do the work. You'll feel uneasy when you don't, because doing less than your best will feel wrong. And that's where you want to get to, a place where hard work isn't a punishment, it's a pattern. A place where consistent effort isn't exhausting, it's empowering. Think about what happens when you do something hard every single day. You start becoming someone you respect. You stop feeling like a fraud. You walk with confidence not because someone gave it to you, but because you earned it. Confidence is built through repetition, through following through doing what most people avoid. There will be times when things don't go your way, days when progress feels slow, moments when it seems like nothing is changing. That's when your training matters most. That's when your mind has to step in and say, keep going. That's when discipline takes over. That's when character is built. The person who keeps working without applause becomes someone no one can stop. And here's something you need to remind yourself every single day. The work is never wasted, even if no one sees it, even if it takes time. Every page you read, every rep you complete, every habit you build, it's adding up, slowly, silently. But it's building something in you that can't be taken away. There are people out there right now who want what you want. The only difference will be who's willing to stay consistent when it's not exciting anymore, who's willing to train their mind to stop quitting, who's willing to stop chasing comfort and start chasing growth. That's the line. That's where you separate yourself. So don't just work hard. Learn to love the grind. Learn to find pride in showing up. Learn to value the effort more than the outcome. Because when you train your mind to love consistent hard work, you'll stop chasing motivation and start becoming unstoppable. You'll wake up with purpose. You'll move with clarity. And you'll build the kind of life most people never reach, not because they couldn't, but because they didn't train for it. The world doesn't need more talkers. It needs doers. And doers don't rely on luck or timing. They rely on effort. They rely on showing up. They rely on doing the hard things every single day until their life starts to match their vision. That's what being obsessed with success looks like. It's not flashy. It's not loud. It's daily. It's disciplined. And it's built on a mindset that welcomes pressure, embraces discomfort, and never backs down. Train your mind to love that, and success won't just be possible, it'll be inevitable. Chapter 3. Reject every excuse that keeps you from progress. Excuses are the greatest enemy of growth, not because they sound dangerous, but because they sound reasonable. They show up in quiet moments and convince you to slow down, wait, or give up entirely. You miss a task, and you say you were tired. You skip a workout, and you tell yourself it was a long day. You don't start that project, and you say it's just not the right time. These aren't just words, they're decisions. And the more you use them, the more they define your life. You have to understand, excuses don't show up shouting. They come in soft. They sound like logic. They sound like safety. They're built to protect your ego, not your future. Every time you use one, you delay your own progress. You pause your own potential, and after a while, you stop believing in what you're capable of, not because you can't do it, but because you keep justifying why you haven't. The truth is, your goals don't care how you feel. Life will not stop moving because you're uncomfortable or uncertain. If you keep waiting until the conditions are perfect, you'll never move. There is no ideal day to start. There's no magic feeling that's going to last. You move forward when you stop giving your excuses power over your future. You move when you take control of the conversation in your own head. Every excuse has one job: to keep you where you are. And if you want to grow, if you truly want to reach a level of success you've never touched before, then you need to reject every excuse that tells you to stay the same. You need to become the kind of person who looks at obstacles and says, "I'll figure it out." Not, "This is why I can't." That shift alone changes your life. You weren't born to settle. You weren't built to explain away your potential. But if you don't stop the habit of making excuses, you'll start believing them. And when you believe your excuses, you stop building discipline. You stop pushing yourself. You stop trying. And the saddest part is, you don't even realize it's happening. You just wake up one day wondering why nothing's changing, and it's because you've built a system around avoiding discomfort instead of chasing progress. Progress requires honesty. You can't lie to yourself and grow at the same time. You can't say you want more, but keep living like you're fine with less. If your goals matter, your behavior has to show it. That means when your mind starts giving you an excuse, you interrupt it. You tell yourself the truth. You don't let your feelings dictate your direction. You take ownership and you act. Every excuse you make today becomes a delay tomorrow, and those delays add up. They become weeks, then months, then years of not following through. You start to accept the delay as normal. You start calling it patience or timing, but really it's avoidance. You're avoiding the effort. You're avoiding the risk. You're avoiding the responsibility of building something greater than where you are now. And it's not about being perfect. It's about being aware. You'll have moments where you're tired. Days when you're off. That's real. But the problem isn't the moment. It's when you let that moment decide everything. When you say just this once, and then say it again tomorrow, that's when the excuses win. That's when they start stacking up. One missed habit becomes a new pattern, and patterns shape your identity. You have to break the cycle, and it starts with calling yourself out, not in a harsh way, but in an honest one. You need to look at the reasons you give yourself and ask, is this helping me grow? If the answer is no, reject it. Replace it with action. Don't negotiate with your limits, confront them. Some people wait for a crisis before they change. They wait until their back is against the wall. But that's not necessary. You can choose growth now. You can take control before life forces you to. You don't have to wait until you're stuck or broken. You can look at where you are and decide it's not enough. Not because you're ungrateful, but because you know you're capable of more. And here's the part that's uncomfortable. You're not always going to be understood. People around you might not see why you're pushing so hard. They might tell you to slow down. They might even encourage your excuses. That's when you have to be firm. Not rude. Just firm. You have to protect your mission. Because excuses don't just come from inside, they come from other people too. And if you're not clear on who you want to become, you'll start living by other people's standards instead of your own. Success isn't built by those who always feel ready. It's built by those who move forward anyway, who show up tired, who keep going after setback, who take the hard step when it's easier to wait. That's how you earn growth. That's how you prove to yourself that your goals aren't just ideas, they're priorities. The difference between those who build a meaningful life and those who don't isn't talent. It's not money. It's not timing. It's decisions. Daily choices. Small ones that add up. The choice to start the task instead of putting it off. The choice to face the truth instead of covering it up with a reason. The choice to move your feet instead of opening your mouth. When you take away the excuses, you're left with the truth. And the truth is, you already have what it takes. You just need to stop getting in your own way. You need to stop feeding the thoughts that tell you it's okay to stay the same. Because deep down, you know it's not. You know there's more, and it's not going to show up by itself. You have to go get it. Rejecting excuses isn't about being hard on yourself. It's about respecting your potential. It's about raising your standards. It's about refusing to let your future be decided by fear, laziness, or uncertainty. It's about showing up because the vision you have matters more than the mood you're in. It's easy to look at someone successful and say they got lucky. But if you look closer, you'll find effort. You'll find consistency.
You'll find sacrifice. And most of all, you'll find a person who said no to the same excuses that are holding you back. That's what's really behind success. The rejection of everything that makes you small. Start paying attention to the words you use. Are you talking yourself into action or out of it? Are you building your reasons to move or building your excuses to stop? Every word matters. Every excuse you speak becomes more real. So stop speaking limitations. Stop accepting delays. Start deciding that progress matters more than comfort. You'll never regret doing the work. You'll never look back and wish you had made more excuses. What you will regret are the chances you didn't take, the habits you didn't build, and the time you wasted protecting your pride instead of building your purpose. So the next time your mind gives you a reason to quit, respond with action. When it tells you to wait, take a step forward. When it tells you it's too hard, remind yourself why it matters. Because you're not here to explain why you stayed the same. You're here to rise. You're here to change. You're here to lead yourself forward, no matter what. And that starts by rejecting every excuse, big or small, that tries to pull you away from your future. Your life is waiting. Don't let a single excuse keep you from it.
Chapter 4. Force yourself to show up even when unmotivated. There will be days when you don't feel like doing anything. You'll wake up and your body feels heavy. Your thoughts are slow. There's no spark, no drive, no clear reason to get up and move. But it's on those exact days that your future is decided. Not when everything feels right. Not when the mood is high, but when there's nothing pushing you. And you still show up anyway. That is where strength is built. Motivation is great when it's there. It can lift you, energize you, even make the work feel easier. But it doesn't last. It comes and goes, like weather. You can't build a serious life waiting for the right feeling. If you only act when you're motivated, your progress will always be inconsistent. Your results will be unpredictable. You'll start strong, stop halfway, then start again, and wonder why nothing changes. The truth is, the people who achieve real success don't rely on motivation. They rely on discipline. They know motivation might help them start, but discipline is what helps them finish. Discipline is the decision to do what needs to be done, no matter what your emotions are saying. Discipline is the part of you that doesn't care how you feel right now, because it remembers what you said you wanted. You can't wait to feel good to take action. That mindset keeps you stuck. Progress begins when you decide that your goals matter more than your temporary feelings. It begins when you understand that showing up isn't a reward for being in the mood. It's the standard you live by, regardless of how inspired you feel. Most people treat their goals like suggestions. They show up when it's easy. They work when it's fun. And they take breaks when it gets uncomfortable. That's not how anything important is built. You can't grow if your effort depends on your emotions. You need to learn how to show up without needing to feel excited. You need to stop making promises only when you're hyped and start keeping them even when you're drained. Think about it like this. Every time you push yourself to do the work when you're not in the mood, you gain power. Not the kind people can see, but the kind that makes you unstoppable. You train yourself to stop making excuses. You prove to yourself that you're serious. And the more you do that, the less control your emotions have over your actions. Your mind will tell you to rest. It'll tell you to wait. It'll give you every reason to push things off until later. That voice is always there. And it gets louder when you're tired, stressed, or discouraged. But that voice doesn't control you. You decide what happens next. You can listen to it, or you can move anyway. And the second you move, the voice starts to fade. Some of the best work you'll ever do will happen on the days you didn't want to do it. Those are the days when you show yourself what you're really made of. That's when you separate yourself from the crowd.
Because most people give in. They go back to comfort. They say they'll do it tomorrow. But you're not here to be like most people. You're here to be consistent. You're here to be committed. You're here to win. You don't need to be inspired to act. You need to act to stay aligned with who you want to become. Waiting to feel ready is a trap. You can lose years in that trap. The truth is, you won't always be ready, but you're always responsible. Responsible for your actions. Responsible for your choices. Responsible for whether you show up or not. And here's something you need to hear. No one's going to come push you. No one's going to force you to be great. This is your life. This is your responsibility. And the only way to earn the life you want is to outwork every excuse that tries to hold you back. That's the price. That's the standard. And that's the mindset you need to carry every single day. You'll have moments where everything feels off. Your energy is low. You're mentally scattered. You don't want to be seen. You don't want to create. You don't want to build. Those are the most important moments of all. That's when you need to stand up and move your feet. That's when you need to stop thinking and start doing. That's when you take control of your story. Showing up isn't always about intensity. Sometimes it's just about not quitting. Maybe the effort isn't perfect. Maybe the progress is small. But the fact that you showed up anyway, that's what makes you different. That's what builds real pride. That's what turns average into excellence over time. You don't need to force greatness in one day. You just need to refuse to disappear. Every time you stick to your habits, even when you're unmotivated, you take one more step forward, one more rep, one more hour, one more piece of progress, and that compounds. That builds momentum. And momentum is what creates success. Don't underestimate the power of one choice. One morning where you get up anyway. One workout where you push through. One task you finish, even though your head wasn't in it. Those moments matter more than you think. They build your identity. They define your direction. And over time, they shape the person you become. Motivation is not what moves the world. Commitment is. Every person who's done something great has had thousands of days where they didn't feel like it. But they showed up, not because they felt powerful, but because they made a promise to themselves they weren't going to break. The moment you stop relying on emotion to move, is the moment you take back control. You no longer wait for inspiration. You no longer need energy. You move because it's who you are. You act because your goals matter. You show up because you made a decision to stop quitting on yourself. That decision changes everything. You don't need loud motivation. You don't need someone cheering for you. You need a reason. A reason to keep showing up. A reason to follow through. A reason that doesn't fade. Just because the feeling isn't there. Ask yourself who you want to be. Someone who works only when it's easy, or someone who builds regardless of how hard it gets. Success respects consistency. It respects the person who doesn't cancel on their commitment. It doesn't reward potential. It rewards follow-through. So build that muscle. The one that moves even when your energy doesn't show up. The one that doesn't skip when the spark is missing. The one that keeps going when the excitement is gone. That's the muscle that creates change. That's the mindset that builds everything you say you want. You won't always feel strong. You won't always feel focused. But you can always choose to take the next step. That's the power you have. That's the control you carry. And no feeling can take that from you. Unless you give it permission. Your life depends on how often you show up when it's hardest. When it's quiet. When it's quiet. When it's uncomfortable, when no one else is doing it. That's when the winners are built. That's when real change happens. And that's the level of discipline that leads to success, that lasts. So push yourself to show up. Not when it's convenient. Not when it's fun. But especially when it's not. Because that's when it counts the most. That's when you prove you're serious. That's when you stop hoping and start building. This is your moment. Not when you feel ready, but right now, no matter what's going on, no matter what's missing, no matter how drained you are. This is the day you stop depending on how you feel. This is the day you depend on who you are. Show up, because that's the kind of person who wins. Every time.
Chapter 5. Track your daily actions and face the real truth. You can't improve what you don't track. You can't grow if you don't know what you're actually doing each day. Most people overestimate how hard they're working and underestimate how much time they're wasting. They say they're trying, but they're not checking. They say they're committed, but they're not keeping score. And that gap between what they believe and what they're actually doing is why they stay stuck. Progress is not a feeling, it's a pattern. And patterns are built on actions, not hopes. You can't rely on memory to measure your effort. Your mind will play tricks on you. It'll tell you that one good day makes up for 3 lazy ones. It'll highlight the moments you did something right and quietly ignore the times you gave in. That's why tracking is non-negotiable. It forces you to face the real truth. No emotion, no guessing, just facts. When you start writing things down, your habits, your wins, your time use, you wake up. You see where your time really goes. You notice what you keep putting off. You face the reality of how consistent or inconsistent you truly are. And for many people that realization is uncomfortable. But that discomfort is exactly what sparks change. It's not supposed to feel good. It's supposed to feel honest. Avoiding the truth won't save you. It'll delay you. Most people don't track because they're afraid of what they'll see. They don't want to admit how much time they're wasting on distractions. They don't want to face how often they break promises to themselves. But until you look at it, you can't fix it. You can't improve something if you're not willing to confront it. You've got to make the invisible visible. You say you're working hard, prove it. You say you're committed, show it on paper. You say you want to change, back it up with data. Not for anyone else, for yourself. So you can stop lying to yourself. So you can stop thinking you're making progress when you're just spinning your wheels. Start small. Track your hours. Track how you spend your morning. Track your workouts. Track your sleep. Track your goals. Not with some complicated system, but with something simple you'll actually use. Pen and paper. A notebook. A habit app. Anything that captures your actions in real time. Because awareness creates responsibility. When you see your choices clearly, it becomes harder to repeat the ones that hold you back. Success isn't built on big moments, it's built on patterns repeated daily. And if you're not tracking, you won't notice when those patterns slip. One missed day becomes 2. One skipped workout becomes a week. One broken rule becomes a habit. But when you track, you catch it early. You notice the dip. You correct faster. You stay aligned with who you want to be. There's power in reviewing your day. Sitting down at night and asking, did I live today like someone who's serious about their goals? Not in a judgmental way, in an honest way. If the answer is no, then fix it. Don't excuse it. Don't sugarcoat it. Own it. That's how you take back control. That's how you start improving faster than everyone else. People want transformation, but they resist reflection. They want results without accountability. That doesn't work. If you want to be obsessed with success, you need to get obsessed with data, not just external numbers, your personal performance, your actions, your focus, your output, every single day. Because success is not random.
It's recorded. Tracking is not about being perfect, it's about being real. If you had a bad day, write it down. If you got distracted, record it. If you skipped something, acknowledge it. That honesty is what builds discipline. When you see a pattern of avoidance, you adjust. When you see momentum, you double down. The page doesn't lie. The data doesn't care how you feel. It just shows you who you are. And when you start seeing your progress, no matter how small, it builds confidence. You stop wondering if you're doing enough. You know you've got the evidence. You've got the log. You've got the trail that proves you're putting in the work. That proof gives you clarity. It gives you focus, and it silences the doubt. The goal is not to become obsessed with numbers. The goal is to build a system of awareness, so you can stop drifting and start driving, so your days don't blend together in a fog of distractions, so you wake up and know exactly what needs to be done, not based on emotion, but based on what your data says, what your actions have shown. You don't need to track every second. You need to track what matters. The things that move you closer to your goals, your habits, your mindset, your choices. If you're working on your body, track your food and your training. If you're building a business, track your output and your results. If you're developing a new skill, track your hours and your progress. Make your effort measurable. Make your behavior visible. That's how you build trust with yourself. People say they want to level up, but they won't look in the mirror. They won't examine their routines. They won't evaluate their time. And they wonder why nothing's changing. Change doesn't come from more effort. It comes from better direction. And direction is only possible when you know where you're starting. When you begin tracking, you stop making excuses, because now you can see the truth. Not the truth you wish was real, the truth that actually is. You see how much time you're giving to social media. You see how often you skip what matters. And yes, it might be uncomfortable, but that discomfort is growth. That discomfort is progress, because it leads you to take responsibility. And that's what separates those who get results from those who stay frustrated. One group avoids the truth, the other tracks it. One group hides from their lack of progress. The other stares it in the face and makes a change. You decide which group you're in. You decide whether your life is built on honesty or hope. When you track, you create pressure, and that pressure is a gift. It keeps you awake. It keeps you sharp. It keeps you from drifting into laziness. You're not guessing anymore. You're reviewing, you're adjusting, you're growing with intention. That's how you become obsessed with success. You get obsessed with the truth, not the fantasy, not the dream. The truth, the actions you're actually taking, the habits you're actually repeating, the decisions you're actually making. And when you hold yourself to that level of honesty, you start rising. You stop playing small. You stop pretending that effort is enough. You demand results from yourself, not in a cruel way, in a committed way, because you know what's at stake. You know what happens if you keep lying to yourself. You stay stuck. You fall behind. You live with regret. But when you face the truth, when you track your days, when you own every choice, you become unstoppable. You build a foundation of discipline. You move with clarity, and you gain the ability to steer your life forward, day by day, without waiting on anyone to save you. The data is not the goal. The truth is. The clarity is. The progress, and all of that begins when you stop assuming and start tracking. When you stop guessing and start measuring. When you stop hoping and start facing exactly what's in front of you. That's how you grow. That's how you build. That's how you turn effort into actual success. Track your daily action, face the real truth, and take back full control of your life. Because it's not about what you say you want, it's about what you actually do, every single day.
Chapter 6. Build hunger by reminding yourself why you started. There's a reason you started this journey. A reason that made you get serious. A reason that pushed you to change your life. And somewhere along the way, when the work got harder or the days got slower, you may have started forgetting it. Not completely, but just enough to lose that edge, that fire, that urgency. And when that hunger fades, so does your consistency. So does your drive. That's why you need to remind yourself daily. Not once a month, not once in a while, every single day. Why did you start? Was it because you were tired of feeling stuck? Was it because you were sick of watching your potential go to waste? Was it because you made a promise to yourself that you'd never go back to the old version of you? That reason matters. That moment you decided to stop accepting less. That's the root of your hunger. And if you want to stay locked in, if you want to become someone who finishes what they start, you need to keep that reason in front of you. The mind forgets when it's not reminded. It gets comfortable when progress starts to show. It lowers its urgency when the pain fades, but you have to stay sharp. Success doesn't care how far you've come, it only responds to how hungry you stay. The danger isn't always failure. Sometimes it's comfort. Sometimes it's thinking you've done enough. But the truth is, enough is never the goal. Growth is. You build hunger by going back to that original emotion. That moment where you said, "I've had it." That night you couldn't sleep because you were tired of wasting time. That morning when you looked in the mirror and realized you needed to take control. That moment wasn't fake. It was real. It came from a place of truth, and the more you revisit it, the more fuel you add to your drive. People lose hunger because they stop checking in with their why. They drift into routine. They forget what's at stake. They treat goals like tasks instead of missions. That's how you burn out. Not from too much effort, but from too little purpose. If you want to keep going when it's hard, when it's slow, when you're tired, you need something stronger than a goal. You need a reason. Ask yourself today, why did I even begin? What did I want to change? Who did I want to become? What did I promise myself I would never go back to? These are not soft questions. They're personal. They're the kind of questions that make you stop and feel, because hunger doesn't come from convenience. It comes from connection. If your reason doesn't move you emotionally, it won't move you at all. Hunger is not some motivational quote. It's a decision to keep showing up because the life you want isn't going to build itself. It's a decision to stay locked in because you're not here to coast. It's a decision to remember that your future depends on what you do right now, not what you did last week. Hunger means you never feel satisfied for too long, not because you're ungrateful, but because you know you're not done. Write down your reason, keep it in front of you. Read it every morning before you start your day. Put it where you can see it. Say it out loud, repeat it until it becomes part of you, because the days will come when your energy is low, when the results are delayed, when the routine feels boring, and on those days, motivation won't help, but your reason will. Some people work hard for a few weeks and wonder why nothing's changed. Others keep grinding because they know the process takes time. The difference is hunger. Hunger says, I'm not leaving until I get what I came for. Hunger says, I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to keep going. Hunger says, I didn't start this to quit halfway. And that voice, that mindset, is what keeps you alive inside.
You didn't come this far to coast. You didn't push through the hardest part just to get comfortable. You came here to build something that lasts. And for that you need fuel. You need to tap back into the reason that got you moving in the first place. Because the further you get from that reason, the weaker your drive becomes. Go back to the beginning. Remember how it felt to want more, but not know how to get it. Remember how painful it was to feel like your life was stuck. Remember how desperate you were for change. That feeling was real, and it's still useful, not to make you feel bad, but to keep you sharp, to keep you moving, to keep you focused on what matters. Every day you show up without reconnecting to your why. You risk drifting. You risk going through the motions. You risk becoming the kind of person who does things out of habit instead of hunger. And there's nothing more dangerous to progress than a person who's lost their reason. You can't let time distance you from what lit the fire. Success doesn't respond to memory. It responds to intensity, and intensity fades unless you feed it. So feed it. Remind yourself, reconnect, recommit. Every morning before you start your day, ask yourself, why am I doing this? Who needs me to stay focused? What will I lose if I give up? This is not just about goals. It's about who you want to become. It's about never becoming the person who gave up on themselves. It's about living in alignment with your highest standard, not your lowest comfort. And that only happens when you stay hungry. When you get tired, check your reason. When you feel off track, check your reason. When you start making excuses, check your reason. That's your anchor. That's your fire. That's the part of you that doesn't let up just because today feels hard. It reminds you that discomfort is temporary, but regret lasts a lifetime. People who succeed long term are not the ones who never struggle. They're the ones who never forget why they started. They fall, but they remember their mission. They fail, but they still know what they're working for. They get tired, but their reason keeps them on their feet. This is what it takes. Not hype, not perfect conditions, but clarity. A reason that is so personal, so emotional, so honest, that you can't ignore it. And when you have that, you don't need someone to push you. You push yourself. You get up without being told. You keep working without being praised, because your mission matters more than your mood. So today, take a breath, block out the noise, and ask yourself one thing. Why did I start? Answer it with your full heart. And when you do, let that answer guide every step, every choice, and every action from this day forward. Because hunger doesn't come from wishing. It comes from remembering. And remembering why you started is what keeps you going when everything else tells you to stop.
Chapter 7. Choose discipline over mood in every single decision. Your mood is temporary. Discipline is permanent. The problem is, most people make choices based on how they feel, not on what they've committed to. That's why they keep starting over. That's why they can't build momentum. They wake up feeling tired, so they skip what matters. They feel stressed, so they delay what's necessary. They get bored, so they quit early. This way of living might feel comfortable in the moment, but it leads to frustration in the long run. If you want real success, if you want lasting progress, you have to start choosing discipline over mood in every decision you make. Not once in a while, not when it's convenient. Every single time. Because discipline is not something you turn on when it feels good. It's a system you follow no matter what kind of day you're having. There will be mornings when you don't feel like doing anything productive. Your body's tired. Your mind is scattered. The motivation is gone. That's where the real battle begins. That's where you either act from emotion or act from discipline. And if you let your feelings run the show, you will always stay behind. Because your mood is not built for consistency. But discipline is. You cannot afford to treat discipline like an option. It has to become your standard. It's what anchors you when everything else is shaky, when the world is noisy, when your schedule gets chaotic, when your plans fall apart. Discipline keeps you grounded.
It doesn't ask for your permission. It doesn't need you to feel inspired. It just needs you to decide. Every goal you have will test your ability to stay disciplined when your emotions don't support the plan. You'll have days when your mood screams for comfort, for ease, for delay, and you'll be tempted to listen. But that's the moment where change is either made or missed. If you keep giving in to what feels good now, you'll never build what lasts later. Discipline is doing the right thing regardless of how you feel. It's showing up when you're drained. It's following through when there's no one watching. It's pushing forward when your mind gives you every reason to stop. And every time you do it even once, your self-respect grows. Your identity shifts. You start to see yourself as someone who follows through, not someone who explains away their behavior. Mood is unstable. It's affected by sleep, stress, weather,